rules do not go beyond rendering advice to the president. So the powers they have are delegated powers. And ultimately, the National Assembly could enlarge those powers, not in their persons, but in the post, which they only hold because the president appoints them to them and can remove them anytime he desires. So the issue of not seeing eye to eye does not exist in a cabinet, because the president would want to listen to different views, and I'm sure any president who wants to govern a country in a mature way will not preside over a cabinet where people are fighting each other. So in essence, they may have problems outside of cabinet, but in the cabinet, they are supposed to look at issues and come up with policies that the government will actually be able to implement. So I'm sure that what is best for Gambians is to forget about the personalities in politics, in parties, in cabinets, and focus on the national agenda and the national issue, and determine who under a coalition are in a better position to serve. Know that this is a coalition. You do not get the most perfect of composition of cabinet, but the cabinet that is possible by virtue of the composition of the coalition. So we must take cognizance of that and accept that. But I believe that any Gambian citizen who understands his or her role at this particular moment will be willing to do whatever he or she could do to at least be part of the solution of the problems of the country rather than being part of the problem.
Mr. Salah, so I'm sorry, I have to insist. Should we expect you to feel a position in the cabinet, or are you going to take a back seat? Are you happy with the state of affairs?
Well, I don't know what people mean by taking back seats. I think constantly people are seeing me engage in issues that are of importance to the nation. So I don't know what back seat means. I also don't understand when people are saying, well, taking the country up to this period, and so the issue we're talking about advice to a president. Advice to a president. The president is a decision maker. It's not Khalifa Saleh or any other person. It's the president who is the decision maker. You can influence the president through the media, through every method of ensuring that he gets ideas. And that's what is really significant. Now, your question is relevant, but I've answered it. I said, I will ultimately have a personal press conference of my own. And when I call a press conference, you can ask me any question, I'll be able to answer it. I'm saying as far as protecting the integrity of the presidency is what I'm trying to do, that know that that presidency is created by circumstances to manage a situation. And as a result, we're talking about a transitional presidency and a transitional cabinet based on a coalition agreement. So you do not expect perfections under such circumstances. And you do not expect a holistic approach, no a homogeneous group. You always expect divergences. And the president would have to manage divergences in views and orientations.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Louis Mendy from West Coast Radio. My question is, I have two issues. The first one is the fact that you seem to be taking too long in putting up a cabinet together. You know, one wonders whether you were really prepared for office, or did the victory take you by surprise? And the second issue is that I'm reading on the papers that the president has extended the mandate of the ECOWAS for another 3 months. I'm just worried that if the situation continues and if our soldiers are, given a back seat and may not feel that importance, maybe that is a potential threat ultimately in the near future. I wonder how you are managing these issues. Thank you.
Well, cabinet formation, if it is going to be inclusive, I think cabinet is the easiest thing to form. You just wake up in the morning and rely on your dream of the person and say, okay, let me make a cabinet ministers. That's very easy. I don't think any president will have any difficulty in forging a cabinet in a day by just listening to the influences around you and say, put this person there, and you just wake up and put everybody that you wish in a particular place. I think what we should now do is to appreciate that the person who is the sole authority who should appoint the cabinet is at least engaged in consultation, in thinking and rethinking. I believe that is safe for the country as we are at the moment. Already first cabinet appointments had provoked so much criticisms and rancor in so many quarters. But that is understood because they are politically based appointments, even if you do include the issue of competence and professionalism. But here, what is the left? He has declared that he wants to feel by purely relying on professionalism and experience. I think that should be appreciated. Unless you are criticizing that, and we can tell him that, well, people say forget about all that and just appoint them so that they will know that the posts are filled. I don't think that's what the advice you would want us to give. So secondly, is the issue of the economic forces. I believe we all know what happened here. And you know that the president himself was sworn in Gambian territory outside of Gambia. So we were really dealing with a war situation. And when other forces intervene in support of an elected government, well, clearly it takes time to work things through. But I'm sure there is collaboration between the security forces in the Gambia and those who came in. And unless we know of friction, which we should know of and should be competent to handle, then one would say that they are working amicably, and then the time given is a time frame which could even be shortened. It's a question of simply looking at the situation and knowing whether he, the president, is comfortable for them to leave and then for business to be as usual. I believe it's a question of judgment. And maybe if you are head of state, you may not make the judgment that he's making or anybody else, but he is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Gambia. That is his judgment at the moment. It could be criticized if you feel that it needs to be criticized. And if you wish to give recommendations, you can give as citizens and use the media so that you will be able to listen to the opinions and make better judgment. That's what governance is all about. Ultimately, you must take a stand. But before taking a stand, you should listen to all stakeholders who are sovereign and who own the country. And I'm sure that these issues will feature in the National Assembly for discussion, so that at least all these agreements will ultimately be ratified.
My name is Babu Kamisi. I'm a correspondent for Africa News. Mr. Salah, why did you make it a position to speak after when the entire cabinet is appointed? Yeah, regarding your position on your cabinet appointment.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that at the moment we are in a transition, and the same question would be asked, why am I here issuing a communication from the Office of President? I believe this is all part of a transition and utilizing all resources available to be able to build the type of country that people envisage. And that country is a democratic country where the institutions would work. But the institutions are yet to fully be in place. I'm sure they are yet to be fully in place. So I'm sure that when they are fully in place, especially the institution of the executive, then what you would have are advices to the president. And obviously, my role would change somewhat. And that role needs to be understood. And that's why I would believe that at that material time, I should be able to explain what my new role would be. And then people can ask the questions they wish to ask. That is the reason. In short, my role has not changed, my advisory role has not changed. Everything as it was in the beginning, that's how it is until now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I am Mustafa Nawai, for Talking Residents. You do make a lot of references to advices, special advisor. Would I be right if my reading into this is that a position such as special advisor to the president has been created and probably someone is that person?
Well, we can speculate. But when it happens, I'm sure it will be announced. I know for a fact that the president has the objective of not only relying on cabinet, but will also be relying on advices from outside the cabinet to be able to run a government. That I know for sure. Now, what those positions would be and who would occupy them, that is yet to come. I'm sure you've seen that in many countries, in Sierra Leone, after the conflict and the establishment of government, I've just learned from some authorities indicating very clearly that there are advisory positions, advisory councils, and things of that nature. So the governments need to build up mechanisms to govern in a competent manner. And I'm sure that any president who wishes to run a country in a proper manner would acquiesce to such mechanisms.
Follow up, please. Just a follow-up. When your government, one of the campaign promises of this government is that there is going to be a rule of law. They call it new Gambia, start of a new system of governance after quote-unquote 2 decades of dictatorship. But some of the initial actions of the current administration, of which you are a part, the appointment of the VP, the renaming of the NI, and some of the decisions were going to put in terms of quite a list that appears to be contradictory with the Constitution. There are a lot of words with regards to within the Gambians online and even in the public space about some breach of constitutionality. So this worry continue. Are we making another dictator?
Well, I believe that the fact that the media is relatively free, and you've heard these views expressed from all quarters, indicate very clearly that there will be a difference in this instance. What must be borne in mind is that the executive, the president, is the decision maker. I hope that is clear, that executive power is vested in the president. And he may consult, he may not consult to make a decision. He may consult from certain people and get information, and from another and get another information. So that is why, under the Constitution, Section 74 says that Cabinet is responsible to the National Assembly for any advice given to the President. Which means that once you have the National Assembly functioning, these are the things they will scrutinize. They can check the executive to ensure that it does what is constitutional. So the executive can have no power to do wrong when the institutions function. They will say, no, that is, I think you've seen it in America with the president putting certain things and having certain election manifestos. But clearly when it comes to governing, you are impossible, you find that impossible to do by virtue of the fact that the institutions are working. And that is why Gambians should put the National Assembly to the fore of the governance process. Because it is that National Assembly that can check abuse of constitutions, abuse of power. They have power to remove heads of states for unconstitutional behavior, etc. So in essence, really, it is important to understand that you cannot continue to do wrong if the institutions work. And I'm sure the president does not want to do wrong. But here and there, this is a transition. This is a president trying to grapple with what rule of law means. It means you must understand the law and act in accordance with that law. And the law is bulky. It is wide. It has intricacies. So that's why you would need advice, and I'm sure you know now that there is an Attorney General, a Minister of Justice, who is the principal legal advisor of the government. That was absent up till now. And maybe, as of now, the president would not be seeking much legal advice from any other quarters, but will start with the Attorney General and Minister of Justice.
Good afternoon. My name is Bakari Fadi. I'm the current affairs correspondent of the Capital FM Radio. Mr. Salah, the regime of the coalition government is falling like a stone among the well-informed young people of this country because of the following reasons. One, the cabinet, they said, is not inclusive, and it's not inclusive with regards to young people. Number two, the vice president's appointment is in contravention to the 1990 Constitution. The president promised to produce our birth certificates to now become city birth certificate. And the third one is the president also, through an executive order, changed the name of the national, the NIA, and then for SIS, without following the due procedure that's needed, because it's enshrined in the Constitution. An act of parliament should be able to recognize that. Aside that, we often hear in public opinion, there are a lot of information spreading out in regards to the issue of President Barrow being to be inaugurated again, 18 February 2017. 18 February always, as we know, is a day that has been set aside by the Independence Act as the Day of Independence. Are we to celebrate the independence on 18 February, or would it be another inauguration of another? Thank you.
Well, we start with the last one. 18 February is Independence Day. So that does not change. Will it be celebrated? Well, that's for the government to make a pronouncement on. But I don't know what the inauguration committee will say about that, but we'll take your question back to them. And I'm sure tomorrow you will get the answers. Whether they're doing it in parallel or in concert, we'll know by tomorrow. And I believe it's a matter of celebration of what should have happened on the 19th. I believe that is the agenda on the 4th. Now, the issue of the Constitution, I believe that's already addressed. A press release was issued yesterday. Has it not been? I think a press release is already issued, indicating that as a declaration of intention, rather than an act that has happened. So I believe what you've said has been remedied in terms of the NIA. In terms of the Vice President, I think the President will be the competent authority to give a press conference on that. And I'm sure journalists could still engage him on the issue, because these are open to society. But one must always bear in mind that the information that one has is the determining factor in decision making. So it is important that the issue be dealt with, candidly dealt with, in a manner that it should be dealt with. And I'm sure that if he holds a press conference and you ask the question, I'm sure you'll get the answers that he has. He is the authority in terms of appointment of Vice President. Now, you've mentioned, I believe those are the key issues that you've mentioned. In terms of young people, well, you already see the limitation of the cabinet, that this is a transitional. One thing that Gambians definitely should bear in mind. I remember when we started this whole campaign, people were confronted with two fundamental decisions. Do they want system change or do they want regime change? Regime change is you focus on the person who is governing and say, this person should not be governing us. By all means, let him go. And you care less about the replacement. System change is you are concerned with the outcome. And you focus on programs, policies, etc. that are put before you, and you make a decision on the basis of that. But clearly in this past election, people were more concerned with regime change. Every Gambian you spoke to who wanted change will say, let the person go, that's what we are concerned with. We don't want to hear about all these grand policies, etc. Let the person go. Well, exactly, that's what you wanted and that's what you have. So we must come to terms with our own decisions as a people. And must not expect of something that we have not actually invested to have. So what we should be concerned with now is that now that we have a regime change, how do we better it to move towards creating a better system? So that's the only thing that we can achieve under the circumstances. It's a transitional mechanism. Coalition is a transitional instrument to be able to ensure that we have change. Now we have a transitional mechanism where there are so many stakeholders. When the person you've elected is not entirely free to sit down and say, this is how I want to form a cabinet. And therefore all the balances, gender, age, and all, will be there intact to happen. Maybe coalition partners could have strategized and come together and have that agenda, but that's not how it is. It's parties occupying a certain post and then leaving those people to give advice to the president.
Okay, my second and last question. Now, the coalition comprises of more than one political party. It is important to note that each and every one of these independent parties had hoped to acquire the presidency at some point, leading to my question, which is it likely or possible for the coalition to be dissolved or for any independent party that's a part of it to be pulled out within the period of President Barrow's first mandate? Or should this be considered an impossibility?
Well, we do not expect a crisis, but you can never dismiss crisis. But you don't expect it, so if there is no crisis, you expect the current composition will continue until his term expires or he adheres to 3-year mandate with constitutional amendments to make that possible. Okay?
Good afternoon. My name is Annette from Joy Southend. My question is, looking at the ministers we have that are appointed, most of them are appointed with two goals: to treat. For example, youth and sports together, which has two different components and targets actually the same age group, but different aspects of society. And we have Lawyer Dago with the governments abroad and foreign affairs, and the list goes on, trade, integral region, something like this. What is the issue behind it? Can every institution be institutionalized? Why do we have to put them together?
Well, the answer is simple: money, money, money. Which means that ministries must have budgets, ministers must be remunerated, those who work under the ministries must be remunerated. So this is, in some instances, why they usually reduce the number of ministries by combining them. So what, of course, is the reality for this government is that it is not the creator of the ministries. It has inherited them. Because in December, the Constitution requires the Minister of Finance to take the estimates to the National Assembly 1 month before the end of the financial year. So within a period of 14 days, you will see the budget being looked at, approved, and then ultimately being transformed into a law. So in essence, really, what you now have, what's called the appropriation of the government, is already a creation. It comes in this estimates. It's already there. So all the ministries are identified there, and the budget for them identified what is approved, and that is what is to be implemented. Now, if the president wants to review that, they will have to do so by coming up with another supplementary appropriation. But then you look at the money. Is the money available to be able to run those ministries? I think, but still, all of you would have every